Hello everyone, welcome back. We are on to Amethyst here. In Shimmering Skies set review, we are on to Maleficent. The full name is going to elude me, but I can tell you that whatever this word is, transformazune, is shift. Shift 6, which is a lot to ask for. We've only seen really be played with the Elsa, which we never really played for 6 in a lot of cases. This one does have the potential to be shifted onto. Maleficent is, the 3-cost 2/2 that draws a card when you play it, but the text says whenever you shift this character or play, I'm not certain on that one, you return a item or a character that costs 3 or less for each Maleficent you have to their hand. So you can bounce a bunch of things for when you play this out. I'm not certain this is going to see much play, honestly. It's a really cool card and art and all that jazz, but I'm going to move on from this one and just call it a 1. It is very overcosted for, I think, what it does, shifting and costing otherwise, and requiring you to have other things in play besides just bouncing one thing. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I don't think it's very good. The Nook. Awesome character, super cool. It's a worse copy of Belle from set 4. That is the Shift Belle. And yeah, this one's also a 1. Really cool card. Love that it exists because I love Frozen 2. It was a great movie. But yeah, going to move on from this one also. It's going to get a 1. Cool for limited. Not really talking about limited too much. All right, but here we are. Cogsworth, Luminary Watchman. There was a card, I think Magic Broom in Hearthstone, that was 1-cost 1/1 rush that when you played it gave all your characters rush. This one only does 1, but that game also had a much easier way of developing multiple characters. There's tokens and things in that game, so it made sense that I can give all of them and it'd be much more powerful. That being said, they had to nerf it eventually, I believe, to 2 costs, I think. I haven't played enough to remember, but this card's solid. Giving one character rush and be able to bounce it. Also just being a character that when you play this, it can be a 1/1 rush. You can play this and choose itself just to rush into something, deal 1 damage. Solid card. This one's getting a 3, maybe 3.5. It's in that range of 3.5. It's a solid card. You're going to see it take out a lot of things. In conjunction with anything with resist, any characters I can't think off the top of my head, just even trading a rabbit in or a goat in just to deal 4. So when you have a Maui going or anything like that in Ruby Amethyst. Helps Purple Steel challenge because they have a tougher time. They just have Fox to really challenge. You can even play something like you have a character in play, you play a Merlin Crab, then you play this on the Crab and have buffed something else twice now, so you can take out something huge and then trade the Crab in too. Really cool card. A lot of things you can do with this. It being a body too is really important. Just being able to quest, so yeah, super solid. So this is when it enters or leaves, look at the top 2 cards, put 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom. Questing for 2 is cool, but overall I don't think it's going to see any play. It's not better than either of the other Merlins on 4, so I'm going to skip over this one too. Just, hey, they set the bar high with those first 2 Merlins that cost 4, and this one's having a tough time breaking the barrier there. It's going to take a lesson from the goat and the rabbit. Archimedes, Exacerbated Owl. He's exacerbated all right. So this one here, evasive, much like we saw Surfer Mini from set 2 be really good. This one probably will see a bit of play in a lot of the aggressive decks. The stat line is less impressive than it used to be. 3 health versus 2 health is a big deal because there's a bunch of things that are able to deal 2 evasives when you challenge, let's say, like the Magic Broom, the Aerial Sweeper, or even cards like Grab Your Sword. Minnie Mouse survived those. This does not. I think it'll be a little bit worse than Minnie Mouse was, but it is fine enough to where it will be played. You can certainly see it in Amethyst, Amber, Aggro. It's going to get a 3 because it's just a fine card. It's not exciting. It's not great, but it's fine, and it will see some play. Moving along here. In the same vein, Bruni, Fire Salamander. Similar, costs 1 more, has the same text, really, evasive and 2 lore. Kind of weird to have those both in the same set, especially back-to-back card number-wise, too. Come on. But when it dies, you draw a card. So that's a little bit more interesting. I'm going to give it probably the same rating. The replacement of the card versus the cost is about the same to me. It's going to be good. It'll see play, but again, going back to what we talked about with Merlin, having to compete in this color, 4 is the absolute worst cost for Amethyst. It has the most to compete with. It has Rabbit, it has Goat, it has Castle, and it has a bunch of other cards that could be played in those slots too, but it can't because it can't play 16 cards that cost 4 in your deck. You could, but I don't know. But it is a better card in play than the Owl, but maybe not for your curve. Oop, that's not what I meant to do. Slow reveal. Earth Giant, Living Mountain. While it's a giant body, and that's pretty cool, giving your opponent a card, while you can kind of mitigate that with cards like Whole New World or the Amethyst item, which we'll get to, I think overall the stats on this character are not really worth it. Amethyst's whole thing is that it shouldn't really care about his characters that much because it just has so much card draw where it can expend them in poor places. Like with Rabbit, it doesn't really care that it dies, or things like that. So I think this one, giving your opponent a card while you don't really care about the card as much, isn't really worth the payoff here. I'd rather just rely on whatever other color I'm also playing to have some strength to it, strength or willpower to it. I'm giving it a 2. Maybe Fringe, some variation of Mill, maybe, I don't know, but not exciting. Gale, Wind Spirit, can't die. It's cool. When it's banished in a challenge, return it to your hand, much like Hey Hey from set 2, I think, the 2-1 for 2. Similar, this one will never die in a challenge, so it's kind of recursive in that way. Certainly against certain decks that can't race you and also don't have removal, which I don't know what decks those are that can't race you or don't have removal, so I don't know if this is going to really do what you think it'll do all the time. I'm sure it's frustrating and limited. It's getting a 2. It's not exciting, and it's just going to die to something pretty easy and not really offer you much otherwise. It's not exciting for me. It's a cool card. I love, again, Frozen 2 is one of my favorite Disney movies, but White Rabbit, yep, we waited a long time for this, and well, there he is. He's going to go right here, and we're going to go right there. Alright, one of the more interesting cards in this set, I'd say Madam Mim Elephant. I talked about just a minute ago how many things on 4 in Amethyst exist. Too many. Too many. And we're really getting to the point where you have to start cutting some of the cards that you wouldn't deem cuttable in your decks to make room for stuff like this. Like how many things beyond what you already play can you play to make this card good? Like is this just something else you play like Snake, Fox, Elephant, and you don't think twice about it because it's not a bounce effect? Maybe, but also that's a lot of bounce effects. And hey, if you run out of gas and just start up to the top deck, if you top deck a bunch of those bounce things in a row, you just can't play any of them, and that's kind of a limiting factor to them sometimes. It doesn't come up very often, but it might. I see this card being more of a 2 of. It is very strong. It's still getting the 3.5 rating. It's a very strong card, and its body is huge. This is more in my mind for something like more like green purple, Emerald Amethyst. Bouncing cards like Ursula on turn 5 and 6 are much more important than on 2 and 3, where Ursula can sometimes be conflicted with developing a board presence or keeping something in play to quest with. In the early game, this thing comes down late enough to where the bounce part of it actually doesn't matter as much because you're getting a substantial body to replace what you just got rid of. So this one's solid. I don't expect this one to be 4 of. I expect to see most lists play 3. And I expect them to see essentially 3 Snake, 4 Fox, and then 3 Elephant. That's really where I see Amethyst going with its bounce package, 10. It is a lot, because again, you can't play these characters on empty boards. But, who knows? Yeah. Luisa Madrigal, uninkable, 3 lore, 4/8. It's a good body, but it's uninkable and it's big, and no, it's not really what Amethyst wants or needs, but it's cool. I don't remember what this card does. I gotta look it up really quick. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. Okay. So it doesn't have to shift. That's fine. Cool. There's not much to shift on for Anna's. There's a couple of the Sapphire ones. There's the 1/4 for 2, and I think that's really it besides some medium Amethyst ones. And the super rare one, that's the 2/4 for 4. That buffs your heroes. It's a cool card. It really can turn the tide in a race, in a battle where you get to then just your opponent set up to play lethal in play, and then you just got to tap all their things and then challenge each of them profitably, which is really cool. This has a really high ceiling, but I think the floor is really low as well. That's an issue, I think. I'm giving this one a 3 point. Now let's go 2.5. It could be really good in the right situation, but the main thing holding this card back is really, of course, is uninkability. Those kind of cards that are uninkable and expensive have to be good all the time, and this one's only good most to some of the times. I don't not expect this to see play. I think it will see play in some denomination, some types of decks, maybe Blurple. I mean, you get to do that kind of thing where you're picking up your stuff and putting it back down, bounce and stuff, and this could be cool to bounce. Maybe Ruby Amethyst because they have really good challenging characters, stuff like that. But it's expensive. The shift targets aren't great, even now with the whole set revealed, not great. But it's a really cool card. I hope it sees play because it's super cool. But yeah, Archimedes, the Electrified Owl. I don't know any game electrified, but this one's pretty good. I'm going to give this a 3. We're just going to go off the bat with a 3. It has the 1 cost 2/2 from set 1 to shift onto, which makes it pretty good for shift lines. I'm still waiting for that Inkable Pinocchio that costs 1, whenever that happens. But this one's fine. You know, it challenges pretty well. It challenges as a 4/4, which kills a lot of things, and especially if evasive, this would have been really good to challenge Diablo. But hey, we had to wait for that one, I guess. But that would have been pretty cool, the previous format, to help challenge it. And I'm sure this will actually help see play to challenge Diablo, thinking about it more. 1 cost Archimedes and maybe Magic Broom or Churnbox Followers as your 1s. Or maybe you have to play more 1s to get around some of the more discard-heavy stuff that's going on. But this is a solid card. The shift part, the evasive part, 2 lore, it's all good. Yeah, pretty excited to see what people do with this card. Another shift line from 1 to 5 that is inkable all the way through for Purple Steel. And they have Robin Hood and this thing now too, for maybe if they want to Holden World. Who knows? But solid card. All right. The 5th Spirit, Elsa. So I did say when the set first came out, this was probably the first or the best card revealed from the initial reveal stuff. For sure it was. Even now, looking back. This card's very strong. The only thing holding it back from being absolutely amazing is the 1 lore pip. If it had 2 lore, it would be absolutely incredible. It'd be one of the best cards in the set. Maybe the best card if it had 2 lore. Close to it. As it stands, I think it's a 3.5. Let's start with that there. So 3.5. It's very strong. It's competing with a lot. The rush part of it is awesome. The evasive part of it is awesome. Tapping something down is all awesome. The character type is also really good, because while the 8-cost Elsa has not seen much play, this one leads me to believe that it could, in some capacity. Really, it never had a shift target that it was happy to be playing. It had the tapping Elsa, which was a 2/3, other things like that. This thing, in general, just being a body of itself that's pretty sturdy, it really works well with Rapunzel as well, because it's how much willpower it has. Maybe, and that's something that color pair always struggled with. The Amber Amethyst deck always struggled with dealing with characters. It couldn't deal with it. It could challenge them pretty well, but could never tap them. All the only things you use to tap are really bad. Pinocchio was not great. But this is just something you can jam 4 of and be happy with, and then set up for your bigger Elsas. So this one really could see play. I mean, I expect it to. It's a pretty strong character. I don't think it's me metagame defining, but the fact that it can take out a Diablo, as well as, you know, challenge something and then not be vulnerable in the crackback because it is evasive, letting you set up for that shift Elsa, pretty strong. Yeah, I expect to see it. I'm excited to play it. I'm really excited to play it, actually. So one of the ones I'm going to be looking out for and trying out for sure. Genie. All right, I don't know the whole Genie word, but Genie. So basically, 7 cost, uninkable. That's hard. 5/5, 2 lore. Okay. When this character is exerted, while it's exerted, your opponent characters don't ready. So it has to be tapped, and then their things don't tap. It's only vulnerable then to rush characters. This has the potential to lock someone out of the game if they don't have any rush characters, and if you continuously tap things down. If their deck contains 0 rush characters, and you have, say, the 3-cost set 1 Elsa that exerts a character, they have to play 2 characters in the turn to ever get out of that, because you can keep using your Elsa to tap their things down, so on and so forth. This could be good. It could be really good, and it might force people to play, you know, in such a way where they have to include characters that, you know, can take this out in one shot. Right now, the only rush characters exist in Ruby and Amethyst, so it's a little bit awkward at times. And pair this with Steel, we can use some of the cards in Steel that we're going to get into in a little bit that then maybe can lock out some actions from being played. This one's a solid card. I think it's a 3, only because it's uninkability. That's the biggest drawback of it, of course. There are certain ways to get it exerted immediately. The Elsa I mentioned can't actually tap this. It's only opposing characters. There's a set 2 or 3 Titan that taps any character, which you can maybe then use. But also using this in conjunction with the Ruby location from this set, which deals the damage to it and then has it tapped to move to another location. That's one way to exert it. There's a lot of ways to try and exert it immediately, which is really what you want to do, because you want to play this and have it ice the board. But no, it's solid. It might see play. The uninkability parts are really big, really, really rough, but we'll see. Olaf. For each exerted character opponents have in play, you pay 1 less to play this character, evasive. So really cool with that Ana we just talked about. The Ana that taps all your opponent's characters. Granted, they'd have to have a lot of characters in play, which would not be good for you to play this character for free afterwards, but maybe you can play at a discounted rate. Say they have 6 characters. Well, that's also bad for you. They have 6 characters. This is the hard one to kind of get to. This is probably the worst of them, in my opinion. This one's going to be getting a 2, even though I love Olaf and I love Snowman. It's really hard to see this one coming down in any kind of reasonable place. Even if this costs 6 because they have 3 exerted characters, that's really bad for you if you have 3 exerted characters. Either they've quested, they've sung, or they've challenged, and you have no board. And then this isn't really going to help your problems there. So this one and probably the Emerald one are the worst ones, but they're not really what I'm looking forward to doing. They really require something from your opponent to be good. And that's not really what a build around kind of looks like. This is more of a, it'll happen on happenstance more often than not. So I'm not sold on it. I think it's cute. Love the card, but eh. All right. Maleficent, Vexed Partygoer. Whenever this character quests, you can discard a card to return chosen character, item, or location with 3 or less to the player's hand. So it can bounce your own things. Can't bounce a goat or a rabbit, though, because it's 3 or less. So that's interesting. I'm not thrilled with this card. Maybe there's some unique situation where discarding cards and bouncing certain things is okay. You can maybe recycle a Popsicle or a Fortisphere to draw cards with that. Kind of cycle through your unwanted, uninkable maybe. It's 0-4 though. It's going to get a 2. There's fringe situations where this could be good, so that's why it's getting the 2, not a 1. But I'm not thrilled by it. Monstro. Yeah, this one's Cerberus was okay in set 1, but we're past that. Magicka Dispel. So during your opponent's turns, if an effect will cause you to discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you don't discard. So cool tech against Whole New World, against Bucky, but hey, Bucky's not there anymore. Friar Tuck, Prince John, anything on their turn with singing Sudden Chills. Maybe, it's fine, but I'm not really seeing this too much. This is going to get a 2.5 rating for potentially sideboard use. You're kind of playing it in your deck if the metagame calls for it, but I don't think that with Bucky gone, even with Bucky existing, this card wouldn't do anything against Bucky. It'd be fine, but it's not really that great against that kind of strategy, because in the situation where you're going second against a Bucky deck, you could have already discarded 4 cards or 3 cards before you get to play this. So it's not really fulfilling the role I think people would want it to. Even against Whole New World decks, like this is not going to come down soon enough to stop you from discarding to Whole New World. And even if you do play it, it's not like they didn't get to draw 7 cards themselves, so what's this really doing? Maybe fringe situations, but I'm not a Magicka Dispel enjoyer. It's not really very good. Maleficent, maybe in a hyper-aggressive deck. 2. Piglet's better. Paw is technically better based off of ability and stats. The only thing difference between Paw and this is card type. It's fine. Don't need to talk about it. It's a reasonable aggressive card, sure. Rafiki. I misread this card like 3 times before I figured it out. So this card only gets the challenger when you play it, the turn you play it, so it loses the challenger on the turns after. So unlike the set 1 Zeus, which is a 4-cost 0-4 with Rush that has challenger 4 and Rush, this card won't get the challenger bonus after the fact. However, this has 1 strength as a trade-off in that sense. This one's better than that one, but neither are very good. This one's better because you're never challenging a second time with that Zeus anyway. But hey, maybe you want this effect to kill a 5. Killing a 5 versus 4 is a big deal, though. Like if you could kill a Tinkerbell with that card in set 1, maybe you would have played it. But yeah, the card's reasonable. It's not the worst thing ever. I have to read this card. Okay. So 3 costs, 1/3. Your opponent chooses and exerts a character of their choice on their side, of course. Not really what we're looking for. It might lead to some good trading situations, but I wish this was an inkable kind of thing. Like this would be something I would like to have seen inkable because it's very niche, even in regular gameplay. But it definitely can be very powerful in certain situations. It's just uninkable, so not thrilled. Chosen exerted character can't ready at the start of the next turn. This one's interesting. There was a card in Ursula, 3-cost 3/3, in either the previous set or the set before that had this text, but is uninkable as a 3-cost 3/3. This could be good. It's kind of weird this has 2 lore. Kind of could get away from that and not care. But I guess if there's nothing to lock down because you're challenging it after exerting it, then sure. But this doesn't tap anything down. This just stops them from untapping, so it's a bit different. I'm not... probably a fine limited card. 2 or 1. Not exciting. Camilo. So when this character quests, you can make gain lore equal to the lore of chosen character of yours. Return the character to your hand. Obviously, the dream is to play this with Mirabelle and quest for 5, then gain 5. That's not going to happen, and this card's unfortunately not going to do anything. It's pretty vulnerable. It's not very... It doesn't do anything when you play it. It's inkable, I guess. Hard for steel decks to kill for sure, but he also requires other things to be in play too, and not generate any kind of card advantage. So it's not... Maybe you can build around it, but it's a 2. If that, maybe a 1. It's not exciting. Unfortunate use of a legendary, I think, but hey. Draw cards, something gains Challenger 2. Interesting. We kind of wish it was a song, but it's not really a song in the show, so that makes sense. Yeah, it's a fine card. Sweet limited card too. I don't expect this to see constructed play at all, but it's cool. Similar to this, Finders Keepers, draw 3. Fine, but you can't really take turn off to draw 3 cards like this in the game, I don't feel like. Friends on the other side's a bad tempo play as and of itself, typically. Anytime my opponents have played the card Friends on the other side in the mid to late game and their hand wasn't empty, I just start pumping the fist because it's just so bad to play 3 costs to do nothing. And this is 5 costs to do nothing, essentially, too. Especially in the game where Hole in the World exists. So, yeah, this one, situationally very good, but unlikely to be played. Yeah. This is the card I was talking about with Alenadale. We Know the Way. So this lets you shuffle a card from your discard into your deck, and if you reveal the card with the same name, you get to play it for free. Obviously, this can work in a different way with characters with the same name, like if you have a bunch of Simbas, or if you have a bunch of Queens, or a bunch of whatever has the same kind of name, and then you flip a different copy of whatever you shuffled back in, it has the same name, you can play it for free. The reason this works with Alan is that if you have no cards in your deck, and you play this card with Alan in play, and you have a second copy of We Know the Way, you can loop them infinitely. So the thing to look out for is any deck that can churn through its deck fast enough to deck itself, essentially, then play Alan with 0 cards in your deck, play We Know the Way, then you win the game, because you gain lore for each time you go through the loop. You can end the loop by choosing something else from your banish zone. Outside of that combo, I don't really expect this to see much play. It's really just 3 cost draw card. So it's getting a 2 with the potential to be more in the combo sense. But it really just says put a card from your discard back in your deck and draw a card. Because you're unlikely to hit. It's very unlikely. Right now, with the card list, there's not enough cards the same name to really build around in that way, I don't think. Could be mistaken, but even if you're like at a 40% to hit, it's probably not worth it. But there's nothing high upside enough to really make it work. But yeah, moving on. Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom. I think this is a fine-ish card. It's getting like it'll get a 3. So it's like not a great card. It's like a burn spell to the face. You know, you can't do anything with it except for gain lore. People are freaking out because they're like, oh, you can just gain lore, just not to do anything. You treat everything like a burn spell. They can't make too much of this card in the game. Otherwise, that could be the case. But it's a pretty good counterplay to cards like Hole in the World, to be honest. It's a really good way to design cards that make that card worse while not just banning it or removing it from the game. So more cards like this exist, the more often or not they're just going to lose, because giving your opponent 7 cards when this is in their deck is way more dangerous than otherwise. Just being able to answer everything they can draw into, like Blue Steel does. Yeah, this card's fine. I don't think it's going to be game-breaking. I expect to see a ton of play because it's an appealing line of text. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine to exist. People don't need to go crazy. I expect to lose to it a lot, but that's fine. Maybe we just need to build our decks in more of a way to not lose the early games so hard, and we won't have to care. They'll just have a bunch of dead cards in their deck. So yeah. Magical Aid. Love the card. Love the... Really wish it was a song, but I guess they already used Friend Like Me, so different. So this is essentially 3 cost. So like it really reads 3 cost, exert your character, return it to your hand to kill an opposing character. So it's kind of interesting. It's an action. I don't really see many things like this being too good. Challenger 3 and then bouncing your thing is fine. I'm not sold on it. I'm not really spending too much time on it too. Retrosphere, pretty good card. Banish a character, item, or location, very less to their hand. Yeah, this thing's fine. Purple has been a deck that people have liked, blue and purple, Sapphire, Amethyst, because they are a color pair which uses cards very well. They generate a ton of advantage with all the goats and stuff, and the rabbits and merlins, and they get to play big things like Anna because they get to ramp into them. And one of the cards they can't take advantage of very well was Flavor Sham, because they only had Popsicle as ways to item to banish. This card could fit to that deck to be another card to banish for Flavor Sham or just ink, but also it actually has relevant text. It's 3 costs to return something that costs 3 less to their hand. Not that bad. I expect this to see some play. It's a fine card. It costs a reasonable amount. It's a 3 cost card. I'm sure this might have cost less in certain situations, and they kind of switched it to being a strictly better befuddle into something better, or something worse, but yeah, I expect to see some play. Fine card. Not exciting. Not scared of it. This was the hidden card or something at the Ursula's return. Yeah, let's get a 1. 6 cost uninkable, doesn't do anything to affect the board. Dies to everything. That's item removal. Moving on. Amethyst Comic-Con, San Diego. I don't know. Yeah, this one's the best one. This one's getting 3.5. This is scary. This one's the scary card for me, more so than that 2 lore thing. You just play this in a hyper-aggressive deck, and it's just kind of your way to keep up with it. The fact that your cards are all cheaper means you're more likely to be able to make use of all of them, and answers are, in general, in this game, more expensive than threats. So being able to play out or dig towards more copies of the Gain 2 lore thing, or just to goats, things like that, yeah, I can see a deck with, 52 characters, 4 of these, and 4 of the Gain 2 lore spells, and that's what the, yellow, purple, aggro deck, Amethyst Amber aggro, plays 4 of these, and then 4 of the Gain 2 lore things, and bunch of characters. Yeah, solid card. Expect it to be played. I expect people to be playing more copies of Benja because of this card. Honestly, this is a card that I do think you need to kill in a lot of situations. And while it reads symmetrical, people should now know, after playing against Hole in the World so many times, the effect is not symmetrical, even in this instance. So, yeah, solid and scary in some ways. All right, Elsa's Ice Palace. Again, excuse the imagery. 3 cost, 1 4, 1 lore. When you play this, choose an exerted character so it keeps it locked down, doesn't even tap it. I wish it tapped it down too. When it's in play, that character can't ready. This one's way too weak, fragile, and uninkable. Yeah, this one's bad. Switching things up, going to the library. 3 cost, 1 8, so same cost but inkable. Double the willpower, lower rarity. Same, also has lore. When a character is banished while here, you can draw a card. This card's very good. 3.5 stars for me. This one's very strong. It makes all of your Chernobog's followers, all of your 1-cost brooms into draw 2s instead of draw 1s. It's good defense against a card like Be Prepared in a mirror match, or against Ruby Sapphire if you're playing Ruby Amethyst, or even Purple Steel. You get to play this with John Silver, just to have more locations in play that are reasonable. And if they then kill the John Silver before killing this, then you get to draw a card and replace it, which is also really good. This is a very good card. I don't know why they keep giving Amethyst all the best locations, meaning all the ones that only cost 1 to move to. They did give Amber the Rapunzel's Tower, which is also a 2 cost 1 8. This is a 3 cost 1 8, but this has a lore pip. That one does not. This is a very strong card, and I'm curious to see where we can play it and what it also might allow people to do to not fear as much removal, and make people have to interact with this as well. The actual location before dealing with the characters could be interesting. So, solid card. Amethyst was awesome. There was no super amazing cards. There's a couple that caught my eye and are going to be fun to play around with, but overall, Amethyst, solid color. Excited to play with it and see the rest of the set play out as well. But yeah, tune in for the next one. I'm going with Emerald up next.